This is Summer Todd's Mystery Show. We haven't been on here in a while. My son and I are doing the show tonight with, I'll let him introduce himself, but we're just, our topic tonight is 9/11, and we're just kind of discussing some of the things that went on that were kind of strange and paranormal type incidents as well. And our guest tonight is, I'll let him introduce himself. I can't see you on there, but do you hear me?
All right. Well, yes,
Yeah.
I can. All right. So anyway, my name's MC Dirty Work. You can find me at DLive, Rumble, Instagram, YouTube, basically everywhere. Tell
Okay.
you just briefly a little bit about myself.
Okay.
I was a normal person doing music, just going through life, and I was putting up music work on YouTube and saw architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth. And I found it very interesting because they seemed so sane. They seemed so, bolted down to earth. And yet, how could they be so insane on this day? And that was the angle I looked at it from. And the more and more I looked at it from that angle, the more and more, long story short, I realized I was the one on the wrong side there in terms of even believing that we let 9/11 happen. Because I was 21 years old when it happened, and that's what I thought. I thought that 19 hijackers did 9/11, but we let it happen. The cognitive dissonance was way too great for me to ever even conceive that we would do that to ourselves with outside help. But here comes 2016. I'm 37 years old. It's about 8 or 9 years ago. And I dove head deep into the research because obviously it's a little, serious, just a tad bit, So anyway, that's how I got into the research or whatever. And I've just kind of been finding out what else I've been lied to ever since.
Yeah, there's a lot of strange things. So where are you from? Did you say you're from?
I'm from Trenton, New Jersey right now, so about 60 miles southwest of New York City.
Okay. So when 9/11 happened, where you weren't around there, or were you?
Yeah, no, I was around. Well, actually, I was living a couple hours away in a college town called Bloomsburg. But I had, even from the very day obviously, I'd worked in New York as a DJ from 1995 till it had happened, and I was still working there on and off doing other music projects. I was constantly in the city. But
Wow.
anyway, my gal at the time that I was with, her mother lived in Roselle Park in North Jersey. That's 11 miles outside of Manhattan. So that was just perfect to poke around because when 24/7 news came out, I was addicted to it. I was hooked. I loved 24-hour news. The only thing on my television was History Channel and MSNBC because, back then, Democrat just basically meant, all right, you don't like war. It's a totally different thing today,
Right.
But anyway, so MSNBC for today's news and History Channel for yesterday's news. I mean, what did I know about Operation Mockingbird? But get into that later. So I said, man, I want to go down and look. I want to see. So it was on or about the 21st of September 2001, and her and I went to her mother's house for the weekend and visited and went into the city during the day and asked questions, took photos with, back then you had the throwaway cameras, we didn't all have these in our pocket. I wish we did.
I remember those.
Yeah, and just kind of asked around and asked questions. I saw hundreds of trucks removing debris that was going 24/7 round the clock. This is really crazy, but and I beg my ex to try to find this photo. She cannot find it. I have a photo of one of those debris trucks that in orange construction paint, the kind that doesn't have the, you turn it upside down and spray on the ground with it. It said aircraft parts only. real quick, what do you think the chances are that little old me there for just a couple hours on the 21st, 2, 3 weeks after the fact, would happen to see what had to be one of the only very few trucks that say aircraft parts only? This is just a theory. I don't have anything to base this on other than what the chances are of seeing that would have been. But I bet you they spray painted that on like every 100th truck or whatever, just to so people like me may have taken a photo, so they may have saw it and remembered or whatever. I mean, that's not too big of a deal.
How many aircraft parts could they possibly have found in all that too? I mean, weren't the planes just obliterated to where, the pieces were mixed in?
Well, they supposedly found one engine on the very corner of Church and Murray that literally landed standing up like a beer can.
Yeah.
All right. Pilots, a legit 501c3 called Pilots for 9/11 Truth, had debunked that immediately because it had a dry coolant system, and it was very easy to note the difference between a dry coolant system and a wet coolant system. There was Boeing 757s and Boeing 767s used that day, and none of them had the coolant system that this jet engine had, and they pointed with the schematics, etc., showing you the differences that way. Because I mean, I don't fix an aircraft, but so even a regular person like me could understand, and it was very easy to understand. The FBI file footage even has the hand truck still in the footage that they probably wheeled it right in there with. But there is that. They want you to believe that there was a tire somewhere, and other than that, I haven't heard of any aircraft parts. I have heard Barbara Honninger of the 9/11. It's called the Lawyers Committee for 9/11 Inquiry. I've heard her say she literally knows people that got almost killed when parts of the plane were coming down, and she worked at the Department of Defense in the Pentagon all the way from the Carter administration on through Reagan, all the way to the Bush administration. So I kind of got to believe her. But that's all I've ever heard in terms of the parts.
Now, there is the plane that crashed in the field, though. They have that in the museum in Pennsylvania, right?
I don't know about them having that, and that's very interesting to me. They said they had found 90 per. Well, first they had said that 95% of it was swallowed up into a mine. They said, well, this was a mine shaft, and where it hit, it actually. They said, but we've gotten 90% of the plane out of the hole. What I learned from Christopher Bolin and reading parts of his book, I'm ashamed. I should have the whole thing right here to show you, but I do not. He went to Shanksville and interviewed. There was a priest who owned a large plot of land next to where that 20-foot gash, whatever the heck that was that they showed us. And apparently, according to Christopher Bolin, that is where the actual debris field was. And this priest had owned it, and he asked the priest. He said, well, "Why did you, why did you not say anything? Why did you?" And he said the same thing that everybody in Shanksville says when you ask them that they were just trying to cooperate. They said the FBI said this and that, and we were just trying to cooperate. He went to their local paper the next day because he's a newspaper journalist. He was when 9/11 happened, and went there for paper or for answers for some certain things. So they said, okay, sure, come in 9 o'clock tomorrow. He came in 9, and there was some upper brass military guy there. And he said, who are you? What are you doing here? He said, well, I've been sent here to talk to you and answer your questions. He said, okay, very good. It's like, what about the, and you can imagine, the guy just blackballed him the whole way. So, yeah.
Well, and, I was reading a little bit about it last night, but I was getting kind of tired. But I saw some comments about people that were upset that part of the airplane or something was going to be in that. Is it Shanksville Museum? And I didn't like that, but I didn't really research it further. So I assume there's some debris or something from that plane in that museum.
Very interesting.
But I'm sure. I couldn't say for 100% sure. I should have researched a little more today, but I didn't get time. But yeah, so there's something. But yeah,
I remember at the time 9/11 happened, there was a rumor going around that they were saying that the people overtook the hijackers and crashed the plane because they knew the hijackers were going to crash it into a target. There was also a rumor going around that the Air National Guard or Air Force blew the plane up. I don't know which story to really believe, and to this day I haven't heard a totally straight story on it myself.
well, that
Yeah,
could
I
be.
don't know what to believe either, to be honest, whether we shot that down or whether that was possibly even part of the whole scheme. I will tell you this, that one plane had to wait 40 extra minutes on the runway to take off. Sometimes it just happens, and you have to wait for your place in line on the runway. And if
I
that
did see
happens,
that.
it may not have been able to be where it needed to be to make things look like what they wanted it to look like.
Right.
That's kind of what it seems like.
About that, I saw that last night. I did see that when I was looking up some stuff, and they were talking about how that was kind of odd.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure this museum's kind of awful. I mean, I saw the picture of it, and it looks kind of. It's out in the middle of nowhere, of course.
I've never even heard of it. I'm amazed. It's awesome. I love learning new stuff that I didn't know.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
let him
a museum.
know what the name of it is.
They're calling it like it's in remembrance. It's a remembrance like of the victims, but there are some of the stuff that the victims had in that museum too. And the woman was telling a story about haunting there, and she said that people go in the museum pretty upbeat, but when they come out, they're not, because it's got this. There's a lot of dark energy, but she didn't go details about the plane. I that up, but yeah. So there was a lot of weird stuff going on. And this is a story, and I've told Austin this a million times. Hillary Clinton wrote a book.
She wrote a book. Yeah, she says she wrote a book.
No,
I'm kidding.
Not Hillary Clinton. It was Barbara. It was a woman named Barbara Olson wrote a book about Hillary Clinton.
Right, the senator's wife. Okay.
Okay, so wrote the book about Hillary Clinton. I don't know where I was
going to say. I know she can't write a book. I'm sorry. I'm kidding.
But Barbara Olson wrote a book about Hillary Clinton, and I forget the name of it, but
it was called Hell to Pay.
Yeah, Hell to Pay. So it was bashing Clintons, and everything. So this is so weird. Okay, so on a Sunday morning show, my husband just happened to be watching it, and Barbara Olson was on there, and she said, "I'm going out on my book tour this week. Make sure you check it out. Make sure I'm going to be going on this morning show or something." I told him, I said, "She's a dead lady walking." I said, because if you mess with Hillary, and that was always kind of the joke.
Get Clintonized.
Yeah. So whether you believe that or not, it was really weird. So that was Sunday. And Tuesday, one of the planes that crashed into the tower, Barbara Olson was on it because she was going to that, morning show, I think, to have her interview. She was going to her
How convenient. How very convenient.
Yeah.
That's so strange. How is that? I mean, I know.
What's even more convenient? That Ted Olson marries a woman that looks just like Barbara Olson. About 6-7 years later, with maybe a little bit of work, her phone call hadn't went through, or I'm sorry, it had went through, and she had said it's the person in seat 12B or whatever. She had to actually call back and say, no, not 12B, 12C or whatever. That means you have to believe that not one call at 25, 30,000 feet, went through, but 2 calls. There's so much you have to believe with the Barbara Olson story. Yeah, a lot of people think she was a handler. I have no actual evidence or proof of that, just circumstantial, as you hear right now.
What did you say they thought that she was?
Oh, like a handler? Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know if you were talking to me.
Yeah. Yeah, what did you say she was? What did they say she was?
They believe she would have been like a CIA handler type. Somebody, especially a woman, you're going to need a couple women. They had 2 people call from each plane, and it was indeed from the phones. Those planes needed to be on the ground for those phones to make contact.
Yeah, that never added up to me. I remember hearing about that back when it happened, and you couldn't call when the planes were in the air, but they
Well,
said phone calls.
Well, you have
there's
your phone
go
and
ahead.
they don't work anyway. They don't work.
Right, they were horrible. Maybe long enough to say, "I'll be at gate 6G." Hello, I don't know if you can hear me. I can hear you. Can't hear. But if you can hear me, I'll be at the gate in 10 minutes. That was it. That's why they ripped him out. They took him out in '03 or whatever and put in a new system.
You're
But
talking
yeah. There is a woman named Rebecca Roth who was a flight attendant. And she actually, I think, in my opinion, in my research I've done, did the best job of answering one of the hardest questions of 9/11, which is where did the actual planes with the people on them go? Since those most likely, like really most likely, like were not the planes that hit what we're supposed to have seen hit. And this is what she did. And I think it's as brilliant as it is simple. She said, all right, well, those phones had to be on the ground to make those, to start making those calls at right, I think it was like 9:34 or something like that. Those calls started. Two from each plane. Okay, so she's thinking to herself, they would have needed a hangar, or several hangars, big enough to hide the four planes. They would have needed to be able to get there in time. So you got two that left from Boston Logan. You got one that left from Newark International, not far from me at all, here in Jersey. Then you got one that left from DC, from Dulles International. For planes go really fast. That's relatively the same area. So she looked for a place with a 10,000 foot runway, because that's another thing you would need, at least like a 10,000 foot runway to stop a big old 757, 767, either or. And wouldn't you know, she found a place where all jets, I mean, the moment they went up, they wouldn't have even reached 30,000 feet probably, because they would have been up for 15, 20 minutes. And if the Boeing uninterruptible autopilots, which has patents, you can Google it and you'll find it comes up as the Boeing Honeywell uninterruptible autopilot. It's a very real thing. If they hijacked them electronically, the pilots would have been like, what the hell? We just go up, guns working, is your shit working? Is your stuff working? Because my stuff isn't working. And so they would have landed. Everybody would have, what the heck? And she found a place called Westover Air Force Base in a place called Chicopee, Massachusetts. And it just matched it perfectly. There would have been enough time. They would have all been there just about 9:34 to go into. And the one woman said they went upstairs. Betty Young, the one flight attendant, she had used, and she didn't say they, she said he, as in one. Somebody sprayed mace and they can't breathe in business section. This is what she said. Let me tell you what the expert said. Cheap perfume from Hawaii, bottles of rum from wherever. If something breaks in that thing, it doesn't matter if it's what place it's in. If it's in business class or in the very rear behind the galley curtain, or if somebody has really bad gas, or the entire freaking plane just stinks. And it sounded way more like a red script than anything. So her theory is that handlers said something to the nature of, listen, we're so ridiculously sorry. You don't understand. After today, things are going to be, this is a crazy drill you're going to be a part of. You're going to be compensated in cash and years worth of air. They would have told them whatever. And they would have been thinking they were going to be heroes. So they would have possibly taken two people off each jet. Where do they have stairs? They didn't fly any 747s that day. That's the only aircraft with stairs is a 747. But what has stairs is a hangar. Often there's stairs in all four corners that go up to a mezzanine type level where there's other offices and such. Mm-hmm. And her theory, and I happen to think this is reasonable, is they took two people off each jet, gave them a script or something like that to read, telling them that, they would be heroes. They were going to be part of the biggest drill ever toward terrorism, kind of like mixing the truth with falseness, just like you do to sell a fake reality. And then after they had called their loved ones to leave messages and so on, like they were told to do, who knows where they went, how, if they were probably off. Who knows how that would have happened and all went down. But I'm glad I got about 8 or 9 minutes to talk about that, because that's a question a lot of people ask. Where in the world did the people go on the actual planes? And nobody really knows, but that's the closest answer.
All blew up, so there's very little.
But that's the closest.
Whole bodies, right? But
I mean, they tell us they all blew up, but
yeah, but
that could just be a big front.
A couple people are alive from that plane, that or something like that. Yeah, I mean, it's a possibility. Who knows?
Barbara Alston could have been one of the handlers, and I mean, she could have been. She could not have been, maybe, but
I thought that was
very
so.
strange.
I said that, and then 2 days later, well, she didn't get to the first interview to promote her book. So, that was so odd. And there's other people too that
she probably didn't want to be questioned at that, booked whatever event, book promoting event.
They Clintonized her.
the possibility.
My personal thoughts are she's still alive, but you never know. Yeah, I mean, you have a good point there too. It wouldn't be the first person by plane. How about Senator Kennedy in 2000? Which, imagine she ends up being senator. Who was senator during 9/11? Of New York. One of the senators, anyway. Hillary Rodham Clinton.
There's so
yeah, she was
about it.
I remember that well.
There, and coincidences are one thing, but that's kind of quirky. Some of the stuff is.
This is what I believe in coincidences. I run into my neighbor down at the grocery store, but I'm in Florida at Publix, and I run into my neighbor at the grocery store in the middle of the summer. No.
Yeah.
And you talking about cell phones back then as compared to now. Even now, they don't work very well on a plane. That.
Right.
And like they have this, like last night there was some calls I listened to that were like long calls, like I could in the building, maybe the Twin Towers, but this was on the plane that this guy called and said he loved his wife and blah blah blah. I'm like, how did he get all that
that didn't those were on the ground, like he was saying. Those calls that were from the ground, because back then they couldn't do them in the air that good.
Yeah,
right. And the FBI took those. If you remember, back then you had to get a special expensive phone to have caller ID on it. Otherwise, you had that little white box. If you remember, and the FBI took all the little white boxes just to they removed all of them. So apparently they were really honestly made from them phones. Some people think they were voice morphed and such.
No, but I remember what you're talking about with the phones, because I remember when it happened, I was at work and I had a little flip phone, and my husband was always watching the news. So he had texted me, I think. No, he called me, but he called me on the office phone and said something's going on. And so but we weren't texting and doing all that stuff like we do now. It just wasn't. And then we didn't even have a television to watch it on, but our custodials had a lounge and they had a little one, so we went downstairs and saw what was going on. But it wasn't like it is today. It's just totally different. You don't have all this stuff right at your fingertips or iPads or anything. So
those calls, the way they said they happened, they didn't happen the way they said, the way the mainstream media told us. Not at all.
About that. This morning he was like, we didn't have our phones and stuff weren't doing that then, because he said we had to find a phone too. He worked on the campus I worked at, but it was a different office. He said we have one television, I think it was in a lounge too, and he said we all had to run down there and see what was going on. So, and I remember when the Challenger blew up, that we didn't know what happened until we went home, or like we found a television somewhere. Everybody was saying they still were alive, and I think I ran home at lunch that day. It was in 86 then, but I
Yeah.
ran home at lunch and watched it on TV, and I was like, well, they're not alive. But yeah.
I
So
was in
there's
5th grade in school.
one. What?
I was just saying I was in 5th grade in school when that happened, and it was a huge deal
I
for
know.
Oh yeah,
in school. Yeah.
What grade
it's
were you
not every day a space shuttle blows up like that.
in? No, but when the um terrorist attacks happened though, Austin, what grade were you in? You were in 5th grade, weren't you? Or
I was a freshman in high school.
oh yeah, so you were a little older. Okay.
Yeah, I was a
Yeah.
little older, but
Wow. But yeah, so these cell phones that work great, I'm like, they don't do that nowadays. How they expect us to believe some of this stuff?
Well, check this
yeah,
out. There was a Japanese TV station. I don't know why they did this in Canada, but for some reason in Canada they rented a small Cessna and they used phone company A, phone company B, and C, 3 different companies, and they said, let's test it ourselves. So they flew up to, first they did it between 0 and 1,000 feet, and for there, I think they had something like a 33%, maybe 35%, it going through rate. Then they went to 2,000 feet, less. They went to 3,000 feet. It was like maybe 10%. By the time they got to like even like halfway to 10,000 feet, like none of the A, B, or C was working. And they did this like multiple times. And this is a long time ago. It should still be on YouTube. But this was, I think, 2003, definitely before 2005.
Yeah.
Very interesting for somebody to not very popular to, you know what I mean, even be asking that question, let alone going out and doing an actual experimentation on it. But
Wow.
very interesting, I thought. And you could still check that out on Google or whatever.
Right.
look that up. Do you know what the company was called that did it, or what the videos?
And if you just throw some keywords into Google, like Japanese channel, Japanese TV channel tests if phones would have worked on 9/11. I bet you it'll come up.
Yeah.
Just put some words
Okay,
in there.
that should work.
Yeah, that was a trip.
That's strange. Now the story I listened to last night was paranormal about the in Pennsylvania, they had a trailer where they were, kind of like Ground Zero had the Fresh Kill, and they had a security guard that was working there because people would keep coming around there trying to get stuff and, just go to the site. And the security guard worked there he started working there in November and he quit in December because he said it was haunted and he saw a lady when it was snowing. He said she was walking across the field towards him and he was yelling at her and told her to get out. It was, that she was trespassing. And she kept coming towards him in his car and she just disappeared. And he said they had all the stuff in, they were getting stuff from like the ground, the people's belongings and stuff. He said it was haunted. He wouldn't go in there. He would sit in his truck when he was working, but he was swearing that it was haunted, and other people say that too.
I was going to ask, did anybody else ever say that?
Yeah, actually, there's people that have said that they've seen this. That lady, the lady seems to come up quite frequently. Now he said he went home and kind of did some research on it, and it's a smaller area, than like the Trade Center. So he saw, they had pictures of the victims all over the place. Remember how they used to have pages of them or something? You go online. So he looked up, he said he actually saw the lady, but he would not tell her name because he didn't want the family to get harassed. And he was trying to keep it real private himself.
He felt he recognized her.
Yeah, he did. And, so he said it was her, but he said he didn't want to tell her name. And the woman that was doing the interview said she didn't want to either for her privacy and the family. But I guess like big time TV shows at the time, wanted to interview him about it, and he wouldn't do an interview with them. I forget the lady's name he did an interview with, but yeah. So, but I, usually hear all these stories about the Twin Towers. There's a story about elevators there. I'm sure you've heard that one, where
Like,
the building's not there anymore, but people hear the elevators opening. They hear people. Yeah.
Some of the preliminary explosions were so hardcore, they blew the entire elevator cars out of the shafts.
Yeah.
yeah,
And then
they did.
said they opened the elevator. A bunch of people were like, just, they had been, they caught on fire because the jet fuel came through the elevator shafts, I guess. And
Well, not
yeah.
from jet fuel, from more likely from nanothermite and other preliminary explosions. Jet fuel can't.
Demolition charges.
Jet fuel is kerosene, believe it or not. It's not like kerosene. It is kerosene. They want a very non-volatile fuel so it doesn't blow up there.
Right.
But once, if it were to blow up, it's like somebody putting too much charcoal lighter on your barbecue and throwing a match at it. Just all goes up at once and it's gone. It's not there to hang around. See, but and I was talking to somebody downtown yesterday about this, about Bob McLevain Sr. and his son, who they said he was one of the only bodies to be returned. And his father said that the only way he could describe his son's wounds were like a shotgun blast to the chest. And he was on the 26th floor. You know what? They had the audacity to tell his mother and father. This kid was 21 or 22 at the time. He would have been about my age at the time. He said, well, your son was on the 26th floor. The plane hit around the 76th floor. And just like you said, well, the fuel came down the elevator shaft, and when it opened, hit your son. But this is the thing. If you aren't from New York City, that may work. But if you're from New York City, it doesn't matter if it's the Chrysler Building, the it could have been the towers. It could have been, let's say, the Empire State Building, which was hit by a plane way back when. There's 3 sets of elevators. It goes to about the 35th floor, your first set of elevators. Your second set of elevators goes to about the 65th, 70th floor. And then your last set of elevators, that's it. You have 2 elevators, maybe one for couches and stuff like that, and the other so you can get people up to the observatory deck, have them look around, take their $25 and get more people up there real quick to take the $25 again. Those are the only 2 those are the only 2 escalators that will go up and down an entire 100 or 90 or 80 floors. It just doesn't work that way. So what they want you to believe is that the fuel came down, came to the 66th floor, hit the button, waited, got in, then went down to the 33rd floor, got out, came down to the 26th floor, and then, shot your son in the chest, or with what looks like a shotgun. Pretty rough.
That doesn't add up. So what do you think happened to him?
That the electric was
What I think is he was hit by a preliminary explosion, by one of the explosions that people were hearing all day. I have on my own video camera that I recorded a woman saying, I was in there that day and I saw many, either you can call them preliminary explosions, secondary explosions, but from 8:46, there were secondary/preliminary explosions going off all day. In building 7 until 5 o'clock, boom, 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 all day booms coming from building 7.
I've often wondered.
Later saying, I found a phone that works, you want to call your mother or something like that. And then you just hear bam, bam. Dr. Judy Wood, she had the audacity at a PowerPoint presentation to tell 500 people, what you heard, those weren't preliminary or secondary explosions. What those were NYPD oxygen tanks bursting. I guess she knows NYPD equipment better than the NYPD. Like I just described to you, those were 3 NYPD right there when he was and the guy, said, oh, they're saying they're bombs. So I find that very interesting.
Well, I mean,
I've often wondered if they didn't have demolition charges in those buildings.
They
And
absolutely have demolition
But-
charges
Yeah,
in those buildings. Cut it
that's
nano
that's the yeah, that's the only way you can explain the collapse of Trade Center 7, because even the two twin towers collapsing around it wouldn't have done enough damage to cause it to collapse the way it did.
Well, if you go look at the two big ones, they blow up. They don't collapse.
Yeah.
There's a piece of that got to the Amex building, a great big chunk of not one I-beam, but like a set of I-beams, 500-foot laterally to rip through 11 floors of the Amex building. On my DLive channel, if you go to the About section and scroll down just 2 or 3 inches, there's a still photo of the Amex building with that piece of I-beam hanging out the side of it. What could have forced something 2.5 tons to go 500 foot sideways? Here's a good one. There was pieces you can see that went like an arch, like this. So now you've got things that aren't just
Seeing
going
those.
sideways or down, right? You got things that are going up. What is collapsing up with this new effect that violates the rules of fundamental physics, etc.
Well, now I've read that
Remember that.
the building kept collapsing. There was different areas that were collapsing in on each itself because of all the horrendous stuff that happened. But I don't know the dynamics of that, really.
What I tell everybody is go to YouTube and watch it yourself. It comes down in 6.6 seconds, 47 stories. And it looks like, the corners of the buildings remain absolutely straight all the way down. I mean, it was really you'd almost clap and say they did an incredible job if it was a legal, bit. But of course, you see the penthouse falling through first. There's 64 HVAC units up there that keep the place warm and cool during the summer. You see those all fall through right after you see the penthouse fall through. They go from left to right like a piano or whatever. And
Right.
once you see those HVAC units gone, that's when the entire building just kind of doesn't even collapse in on itself. It just goes straight down. Some windows break. There's a couple videos where you'll see actual fire, like explosions. That's bunk. That's something I remember. I put that up in 2018 when I first started doing this kind of research, and like 30 people from my research group said, "No, Jay, that was done by somebody added those flashes to try to make us look bad, to say, look how easy I can do CGI and just make as if the building falling down was fake, But somebody did in fact do that. But there are many real photos, moving photos." Pictures of it coming down. It's so obvious.
They didn't have the building wasn't falling like on itself all day long, and that's what they're
That's what I had heard. I believed it. It made sense. I heard that building 7 had sustained such awful damage from 1 and 2 coming down that it came down. And
that was the story I heard about that.
I heard the day of, because like I said, most people were glued to their 24/7 news after 9/11. I was glued to it even when the USS Cole happened. Yeah. I thought I was staying informed. I really did.
Yeah, so did I. And over
Man.
the years, I gradually realized how uninformed I was about that whole thing.
I tell you what, it's all about keeping you on the hamster mill. Or the hamster wheel, with going to work, the wife, the kids, the dog, the sleep. I only had the opportunity to do this type of research because I was in a real bad accident in 2010 and haven't needed to, bless God, I haven't had to work since. I mean, I sure wish I could have worked. But the point is, whether you're older in age and you're not working anymore, or whether you get hurt, it always seems to be people like that get into researching and actually have the time to stop and witness the world around them and say, wait a minute. So something ain't right here.
Well, And yeah, you start to see the coincidences and a lot of stories and pick up different things that you didn't know when you have a little more time. Yeah. When you're working, you don't as much usually.
The system's designed to keep us distracted from all that stuff.
Because every last one of us is a slave, whether we realize it or not. You know, in Russia, they let you see the bars, taste the bars, smell the bars, see the secret police. Over here, and this is the reason why you're a much more optimal slave. They get better work out of you if you don't realize you're a slave. So here, they lie to us and tell us we have the most freedom in the world, although they can take a pen and write an EO tomorrow, and a million of us can become criminals overnight with the signature of a signature.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, Jordan Maxwell said that all the time. For a land that changes our rules, you know, every 4 years, every 2 years, there's a midterm, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was I mean, they actually say it's really haunted, though. They talk about a lot about the elevators, but there was a hotel by it that said they don't put people in the rooms that face the trade center because people see people in the mirrors, like in the windows, shadows and things. So they have to move them to the other side of the hotel most of the time. Or if they do stay in the rooms, they tell them to try to keep their shades closed. But they have a lot, I guess, because supposedly so many people died so quickly. You have a footprint there. There's a cat. Doing the cat.
Cats always know where the camera is. I don't know what it is. I think they can see it with their eyes.
He's so
like the beam, whatever picks us up. I think the cats can actually see that beam.
There's something they can see that draws them into it.
Yeah.
I had a cat for 6 hours once, and he jumped right up on my shoulder when I was streaming. It's like they know to do that, just like they get they know to go to the bathroom and the little kitty thing. It's like, okay, streaming up here, they just pop right up there. You try to push it, no, I'll sit on your neck, I'll figure it out.
They're pretty
makes sense to them.
I guess so, or they want camera time or something.
I remember, like, when right after the terrorist attacks happened, there were a lot of stories about firemen on the bridge and stuff that were dead that people saw that were alive. Just a lot of haunted stuff there.
Oh yeah, I mean the energy of all the people that died, that's never going to go away. That place the energy of that place is altered now,
and
beyond belief.
What it actually looks like. I mean, they paint it with all these bright kitty-looking colors. I don't know if you're familiar, if you've ever heard of a Sesame Place. I live right by it or whatever, but they paint it like Sesame Place. 3,000 people's graves, and they have the place with a beer garden. And like I said, looking like Sesame Place with all this. I mean, I love graffiti as much as the next person. I'm a graffiti artist, but there's a time and place for everything. That's not graffiti anyway. It's street art. But they should bring all this colorful. So they're trying to blend over it. They want us to forget about it. You know how much ABC spent on 9/11? I don't know what they did yesterday, but a year from yesterday in 2024, you know how much they spent on the news paying tribute to those who died that day, or just remembering the day itself? Less than 3 minutes. 2 minutes and 47 seconds. That's what it was.
We talk about it less and less. There's like yesterday was really there's less and less out there about it. The funny part about the story last night was the guard, in Pennsylvania. He said that he thought that the people on the plane were somehow keeping people in this little trailer, that had the stuff in it. He was like the terrorist, but he said they were angry. He said that the spirits that he encountered felt angry, and I was like, well, why would they be angry though? But he thinks that they didn't know they died, and they're still like keeping.
They want their justice, maybe.
Huh?
Maybe because they want justice.
They want the truth about the event to come out to the American people.
He explained.
I think.
He explained at the end, he said the reason he thought they were mad is they were still here. They didn't know they died, and they were still keeping these terrorists at bay. They locked them in the trailer and wouldn't let them out or something.
He believes the official narrative, but okay, I dig it. I got you.
But I don't know. I was like you before he said that. I was like, well, why would they be angry? I'm like,
Yeah, they wouldn't.
I don't know.
If the official narrative was true, they wouldn't be angry about that. They're mad. They're mad because a lot of the world believes a narrative that really isn't true about that whole event. That they're trying to get through about that. I think.
Would they know though if they were on that plane that somebody blew it up instead of like them crashing? Like they might.
Probably. I would assume their spirits. I would assume they would know, but
yeah,
I just don't know.
That's.
but
I'm sure that there's way more to it than the official story we were all told. And they want the world to know that, and that's why I would say that's why their ghosts and spirits still hang around those sites and haven't moved on. That's probably part of the reason for the haunting.
Do we know anything? It's like the Kennedy assassination. It's so muddied.
Yeah.
Never really know the truth.
That's another one.
Another one, like yeah. And then you could even go to COVID because a lot of people have various. I'm not so sure about that now. You look back on it and maybe you believed one thing. Now you look back and you're like, I don't know.
Oh, there's so many holes in that COVID story. There's so many holes in that narrative. It's unreal. That was where any last shred of credibility for the mainstream media died for me. Any last respect or credibility they had at all just died for me with that whole event.
Well, now they say it's.
And I was
They said you got.
I was already skeptical about it, the media anyway, before that, but that was the end of it for me. And that got me more into researching the conspiracy theory side of things a lot more deeper than I was.
But I don't know
that was
anymore. Did you see the AI that's out? It's about the guy that was killed. The conservative guy. I keep forgetting his name.
Kirk.
Kirk, yeah. It's to be his wife, and it's an AI thing. It's not her. She was going, oh, I didn't know I'd be burying him today and stuff. And I'm like, that she needs to sue somebody because it's not her. Just a picture of her, and she's going on about how he loved everyone and blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, that's terrible. We don't know what's real anymore. When you watch the news,
I wonder what the legality involved with something like that is. I mean, now that with all this new AI, they're going to have AI lawyers. They're going to need them.
If you go out, it's on Facebook, and a lot of people seen it, and everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, that's an AI thing?" And I'm sure that she may try to sue someone. I don't know.
That's not the only one out there. It's like that.
Oh my God.
No, but you're seeing it all the time. You'll see it when something happens, you'll see it, or like you'll see like an actor dies and it really looks real, and you're like watching it, and then if you go out and look it up, they haven't died. So yeah,
I've seen a lot of those channels that say, "Oh, this celebrity died today," and then you find out it's fake.
Yeah, the Onion.
Because
the Onion or the Babylon Bee or But at least they claim themselves as satire news, so what they're saying is not real. But the AI is making channels that appear to be real now and stories that appear to be real that never happened.
Well, it looks like it's her, but she wouldn't be that composed. Like she's acting like it's just an everyday thing. Yeah, I'm do his funeral.
Yeah, that wasn't her.
It's better than it was a year ago. I mean, a year ago it would kind of spell things off a little bit, and you couldn't recognize faces. And boy, is it different than then.
Isn't it?
It's evolved quick.
Stuff. I haven't messed with it yet.
How advanced do you think if the AI was in 2001 for like the military and stuff though? Were they still light years ahead of what we're seeing today back then? How sophisticated would
I just
okay.
could only guess. I bet pretty sophisticated. I can tell you one thing. The triangulation factor that they use for GPS, that was how they had all the smart bombs dropping right down chimneys and such in 91 for Saddam Hussein. Then 10 years later, we have that as a tool called GPS. So, I mean,
Yes.
it maybe gives a little bit of context.
So
I
how sophisticated of a false flag can they put together? I mean, like
Today, who knows, right? I mean, on
I
nine
mean,
11, I could never imagine that shit. The shit that they could pull today, the stuff they could pull
yeah.
today, I can only imagine. I mean, all we can come up with is blue beam, blue beam, blue beam. You know, everybody talks about the artificial invasion of aliens and et cetera. And I think that's reasonable. I think that's reasonable. But it's literally out of my imagination when I try to think of what would a 9/11 style false flag uh, operation today in 2025 look like 25 years later, and I can't even imagine.
yeah.
Yeah, as if it was as sophisticated as it was then, which it was extremely elaborate. Yeah, I can only imagine how much more elaborate it'd be a quarter of a century later with
Right.
technology having evolved.
People watched three buildings, two of them explode, and that was 100+ stories tall, right on TV, outwards. And because they were told that they fell, I mean, I even did this. I said, well, I guess they fell. I remember seeing the squibs in 2005. Somebody gave me a copy of Loose Change. Yeah, just so happened to have got a copy of Loose Change in 2005. That didn't change my
Right.
mind, but I thought it was very interesting. When I saw those squibs, I said, that's interesting, but I said, I'll bet you that's compressed air that's coming down from the top, just pushing because I figured it was the pancake theory. And I that's how I wrote that off too. I said those squibs that are coming out there, that's got to be compressed air. You know why? Because it had to be anything except that, because of the cognitive dissonance that was in my mind at the time, and most people's.
Mm. So what do you think about the people jumping out the windows and all that?
Well, they timed explosives and shape cutter charges. They tried to do the best they could anyway to go off, obviously, when each plane hit. There's actually footage of the second plane hitting the second tower, and you see other bombs going off on the first tower, secondary explosions, when the second tower is being hit. But, oh, golly, I'm sorry, I had a brain fart. What was the question?
I just said, what did you think about the people that
Oh,
were
right. The people jumping out. They were
yeah,
getting, it was so hot. I mean, you see some of the men up there, they're practically naked because some of those nanothermite shape cutter charges were
right.
probably going off under them, to the side of them. Now, later, there was people just standing there in the hole, waving like, hello, we're up here, help us, etc. But that was, after that pocket of heat and such would have been out of there from that section. But I guess they were cooking and they had to decide, is the pain so much that I would rather cook, or does it hurt
Right.
so much that screw it, I'm jumping. I mean, oh, what an
Yeah.
awful choice to think of. That's your motor function making that choice. At that point, that's not even your brain making that
I
choice.
can't even imagine.
Yeah, they were
Especially,
just they just made that decision out of reflex at that point.
I could see why it's haunted. My God, but yeah. Oh, that last night there were two people that were holding hands as they came out the building. They don't know if they knew each other or if they were just trying to get enough courage up to jump out together.
Right.
Yeah, and they still haven't identified all those people that they had pictures of jumping out of it.
I don't know if you guys heard of this, but some of the parts of people who died that day actually ended up in potholes in New York City, filling potholes. And this is from the New York Times. About 4 or 5 years ago, there was a story about that.
Oh,
Unbelievable. They said they were still finding little pieces of bone fragment and stuff on the tops of adjacent buildings and so on.
yeah, like I read
Yeah, I remember hearing that.
a skeleton, like a little piece of their spine or something was on a windowsill over where they were. Yeah, there was things like that. It was crazy. Oh, yeah. So
Be careful.
I always thought it was creepy how they called the landfill where they took all of the debris and stuff fresh kills. Why would you name a land kill? That's so inappropriate, and to the victims and victims' families to name a landfill where you're taking all the debris. Fresh kills. Why did they do that?
You guys
Yeah,
are
I
creeping
wonder-
out the host. You guys are creeping out the host. She's getting creeped.
Oh,
She started having shivers
Meanwhile,
down
they're
her
changing the baseball teams' names from the Indians.
yeah,
We call it fresh kills. You know,
back. And
yeah.
can't
yeah,
call them the Redskins, but fresh kills is okay.
that seems
Yeah.
no, I've
Yeah.
actually heard something that you'd probably be the best person for answering that, MC. Now I heard that the Redskins are actually talking about changing their name back to the Redskins. Is that true?
yeah. Yes.
I don't know, but I would like to see that. I reckon, yeah, certainly. Anything less woke.
A couple weeks ago, because we're
So-
from around here. Like I'm from, I worked at Miami University, and they called them the Redskins up there, but then they changed the name and took it away. But yeah, they're talking about bringing it back.
Wow.
Miami Redskins,
Okay. All right. And
and
then
Red Hawks, and Redskins, and
now, I heard about that a little while back. It popped up on me. I figured I'd ask if it was
well,
true.
but when I grew up around here, it was always cool that we always knew there were Indians in Southwest Ohio, and we were proud of that. I never heard people.
It was never insulting to call your team the Redskins or the Indians or the Arrows because it made you look badass. You know,
Right.
people
And-
thought your team was badass because it was named after Indians, so it wasn't politically incorrect or insulting.
and
You know, it was never meant that way.
you went to school with Preble Shawnee Indians,
The Shawnee Arrows was our football and baseball team and stuff,
and my
and
well, go on. I'm sorry.
it was the Talawanda Braves for you.
Mine was Talawanda Braves. And then, like I said, Miami University Red Hawks and Redskins. And then, everybody decided to get really politically correct and take it all away.
Well, that logo for the Washington Redskins, I think it was, that logo with the Indian head, that was actually based off of a Blackfoot chief, and his family made millions of dollars off of that logo when they were named the Redskins, and they wanted it brought back.
Yeah, like Aunt Jemima. So her family.
Or like how Land O'Lakes, they were trying to be politically correct and not racist, but they removed the Indian from the package and kept the land.
Well,
Well,
I have
Andrew Jackson did that too.
I have
you
an
know?
issue with the White Sox. I think that we need to reevaluate the name White Sox. That could be an issue for me. So
To make them Black Sox.
make them
Well, they have that, right?
make them
Chicago?
lightly tan.
They do have Black Sox, don't they?
Yeah, yep, Chicago.
Yeah.
Oh, they do in Chicago.
Played for him for a little while. Michael Jordan.
Hmm.
Like a lot of the alumni would come
Like a
back.
second baseman or something.
a lot of the alumni would come back at Miami and say, you know, it's the Redskins, it's the Red Hawks, and I don't give a shit. But I'm like, whatever. I mean, you know. So that's funny. But they are supposed to bring it back because, you know, but
I'm gonna mute out
but
because every time I talk to you, I get you off the thing. So I'm gonna keep quiet. This was a really good
yeah.
interview, so I just want to listen.
But
Oh
my
yeah, that's great.
to wrap that up though, my take on it, and you know, I've talked to my boyfriend about it too, is and he's black, so he's like, you know, when you come off like in New Orleans, you had all the statues and stuff with Robert E. Lee, and there's all the things there. They weren't they were for slavery and stuff, but it's a learning tool, and you can't
Yeah.
erase it.
You have to preserve that history to remember it.
Yeah, and he's
You
like,
know.
of course I don't think that, you know, we're not glorifying them though. We're just having them there for educational purposes. And just like in school, you don't want to erase what happened with slavery. So you don't want, if you erase it, then nobody knows. That's like acting like the Holocaust didn't happen. So
Right. Then you repeat it again.
Yep.
You gotta learn from your mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Look what's happening in Palestine right now.
Right.
Somebody didn't learn from their mistakes.
But they're
Yep.
starting to put some of the statues back because we had a lot of the statues taken away, you know, and put in storage. So I'm kind of glad about that. But you know,
Yeah, I'm glad to see them starting to reverse course on that because we got to preserve our history. It's the only way we can move forward is to preserve it so we can learn from it.
and
You
it's
know.
not always
That's very important.
we're not proud of some of those things, but we can learn from them, I think.
No, but you can learn from them.
Right.
That's and then people removing the Indian and keeping the land on the Land O'Lakes package, claiming to be politically correct. Well, you can't be politic. That's racist. That's racist.
Both sides of that field, right? Right. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
You can't put both sides of that coin, right? I mean, one or the other.
Right. But
The Indian on that package wasn't even insulting. There was nothing offensive about it.
I'm surprised you didn't say her boobs were more insulting.
well, Aunt Jemima,
Why? Because they were small.
Because they were boobs. Period.
Oh, just because they were because.
So, you know, a big old schlong there, maybe it'd be all right.
Oh well, yeah. If we're trying to be politically correct with all the LGBT sort of stuff, and
but she was actually a businesswoman, and actually, for her race and her time, that was a big deal. You know.
she was I think America's first black millionaire.
Yeah.
Off of the business, and she was born into slavery and died America's first black millionaire. So she was a symbol of how far America came, and they erased her.
Black millionaire.
Hmm.
Huh?
Who was it? Who was this? America's
Aunt
first
Jemima.
black. Oh, Aunt Jemima. All right. That was
Yeah, I think Aunt Jemima was one of America's first black millionaires, and she was born into slavery. You know, she was a symbol of how far America came.
She made that brand. She did it, but yeah.
Yeah, and her family to this day, or until when they got rid of her, was making millions of dollars off of.
I wonder how much
of that.
white folks were making though. That you know what I mean. Let her make that $1 million. Just saying. Yeah. I mean.
Yeah. She worked with businessmen. She had to back then. That's another thing that is kind of admirable, though, really. But I mean, that she could even navigate that.
She was able to navigate it at that time is amazing.
Yeah, that is pretty incredible.
But back to hauntings. That's kind of haunting some of that stuff too that happened. But
all of it.
So I didn't read anything about the Pentagon and any hauntings there. I didn't research any of that. So have you guys heard anything about anything like that, or?
I haven't heard anything about hauntings at the Pentagon, at the site of the Pentagon or anything. But I've heard my fair share of different theories about what happened there. So, some people say a plane didn't hit it at all. Some people say it was hit by a bomb or a missile.
I wonder if
So
all those planes were.
Yeah. And again, I'm not sure exactly. I don't believe the official narrative at all anymore, really. I mean, I'm with MC Dirty Work on that one completely. I don't believe the official narrative. I don't know. I don't claim to know exactly what happened, but
Right.
the official narrative, it's not even remotely believable, even with just surface level research.
What?
You don't have a dialysis machine 200 feet underground. It's there's so many parts of it that are just literally impossible.
Yeah.
Hmm.
What do you think happened to the Pentagon? Do you think a plane crashed into it, or have you done much research on that aspect of?
Yeah, I have. I've researched all aspects of 9/11 pretty hardcore. I think pretty legit. No, well, the first thing is, did Flight 77 hit it? Because some people think Flight 77 hit it. Ryan Dawson believes Flight 77 hit it. Real quick, this will take 30 seconds. It blows my mind that such a astute researcher, especially into Middle Eastern affairs, as Ryan Dawson, could think that Hani Hanjour did, because a lot of people ask, so why not just go for the roof? Why not aim for the roof of the Pentagon? Why go for the outer E-ring? Why? And he says, well, this is very simple. He tried to go for the roof, realized that he was coming in on the wrong angle, so pulled out of that dive. That did the only thing he could do, which was a 270-degree corkscrew turn going from 6,500 feet in the air down to 37 feet in the air to not even scrape the lawn, yet smack directly into the outer E-ring of the Pentagon, which had just been refitted for this type of thing, for terrorist explosion, bomb. The outer E-ring, the rest was being fitted to be, refurbished. And also where they were looking for that famous $2.3 trillion. It's the Naval Budget Analysis Office, killing 35 of the 37 people that were searching for that money. Not that they won't just replace them with other people that'll search for the money, but all that coincidental. So, no, I don't think, goodness help us, I don't think that happened.
That makes perfect sense.
It would have been,
actually, yeah.
It would have been something like a global hawk. A global hawk is something like a predator drone, although it's heavier. It's much more hardcore. It can stay up pretty much forever, which is why they call it a global hawk. And I think they refitted either a global hawk or something like a global hawk, something much smaller than a 757 droned. And that, I believe, is what hit the Pentagon that day. Now, if you go, I'm pretty sure they're still up at the FBI vault or whatever. If you can, I've seen a lot of FBI file, not footage, but file photos. They all have a number. They all have a yellow tag on them. I mean, some of them are burned up bodies. This is from the Pentagon. Some of them are landing section, whatever other, because a lot of people think the biggest thing found was that outer piece of the shell, the aluminum piece of the outer fuselage. Now listen, I don't think it's impossible for them to have staged all that stuff. As a matter of fact, get this, and I'm remembering something I totally forgot. There was a researcher who looked at that piece, that famous piece of American Airlines, the shiny silver, looking, that everybody knows how American Airlines jets look. Everybody thought that was the biggest piece. There was a piece of vine, if you will, some green piece of whatever, and somebody with a photo of that knew horticulture and knew about stuff like this checked out exactly what it was and said, that isn't native to DC. That's not even native to America. So some other people crowdsourced some truth, and it turned out there was wreckage bought by a firm overseas. We won't even name which one, not an Arab one. From a 1995 crash in South America that had coincidentally an awful lot of the same pieces that were found in the Pentagon. And would you know, that vine, that little vine that dude saw, was indeed indigenous to that area. Wow. So what a trip. But I guess that means one of three things maybe. Either the photos are staged, meaning they're just faked, there was no really bodies or wheels or such there, or they planted the bodies, the wheels, whatever, and took photos of it. Because remember, there's a lot of people compartmentalized out of this that need to, not just we the people, but you got FBI people that need to buy this BS, at least in 2001. You've got airline people that need to buy that BS. I always think when there's something like when somebody dies, like, wow, how many doctors must have known that was murder? BS, like every time the HRC pulls out the wet works and so on. But yeah, so that's what I'm thinking more or less happened there, that some sort of droned something smaller, or God forbid, maybe the size of a 757 hit that. But I don't think any of the crashes were what took off that day. I think they all landed at Chicopee or someplace like Chicopee, and were, done away with.
Yeah, so that's my question is, it doesn't seem like there were any whole bodies, on any of these crashes, like to bury or to test or look,
These ones were torched, the ones that I saw. I mean, they were crispy, I don't want to say critters, but, and you could definitely tell they were bodies. But see, again, were they really there? Are these photos that they put up? Because, I mean, they have their file numbers and everything like that. I can't remember how many I put up on my Instagram. I lost 1,800 some odd screen grabs on my old phone. And, I don't even like to think about it. Like 7 years worth of screen grabs. And I could just show you all these or whatever. But I don't have the damn doggone phone. But I was surprised to see that, because people in my 9/11 group said, "Oh no, there's," and I was, get out of here. And sure enough, I said, "Oh my goodness, yes there is. At least there's file footage of the FBI saying that yes there is." And bodies, there's the wheel with the freaking the landing gear there, and etc. I didn't see any motors, and that hole punch out of the C ring is just almost laughable. Let me tell you, the soft plastic nose cone of a 7.5 or 7.67 can't punch through a wall like that. But what can is a breach charge. When you can't go through the door and you got to surprise them, you go through the wall. And that's exactly what it looks like. It looks like it's about 24 feet wide. It's just circular. And it looks like somebody put a breach charge there and blew the thing open. However, there is...
We're talking about the Pentagon, right?
Yes. However, on the other side of that hole in the C ring that's supposed to be the punch out of the front of the fuselage, there is the international, like, police, fed, whatever. When somebody died and the body was removed, they put it's like an X with a circle or something like that. And there was one of those there. I don't know how much, if anything, that has relevance to it, but I feel the need to mention it. Wow. But yeah, so more BS staging at the Pentagon, with that punch out, etc. And also, lastly, the roof didn't fall at first. That roof didn't fall for about 25 minutes. So for the first 25 minutes, folks were looking at the Pentagon without even the roof having fallen. People are looking at the Pentagon like, what is there, a fire? There was no hole. There was no two holes where the titanium Pratt and Whitney turbofans would have went through. There was a tiny little hole that a woman named April Lowry, I believe, or maybe saying her last name wrong, but her first name's April. She had brought her child to work that day. It was just her and her kid. It was either connected or it was just the luck of the draw. But she said the very second that she went and hit the switch to log on to her computer, that the whole room just exploded. And she could hear her baby crying from across the room. And she couldn't see anything. And she was knocked flat on her behind. And she made it to her baby, thank God. Who, again, thank God, just scrapes. And, oh, thank God. She didn't, with no help, she literally and her baby exited out of the hole, quote unquote, that the quote unquote plane made. Yeah. Now,
one thing that never
argue that all of the structure holding beams were blown in one direction, so that indicates that something did crash into there. I'm not impressed with that. I think there's ways they could have blown that to make it look that way, but see, they do this for a living. I don't, but that's just my thoughts.
That never made sense to me, with the Pentagon crash, is I've never seen a video of the plane flying into the Pentagon. Like, you see videos, like you see video. There was people standing around with camcorders that day, like the tourists and stuff. You think somebody would have caught a single video of the plane flying in there, and nobody did?
Check this out. There's a meme that has a picture of the Pentagon in 2001, and it says something to the nature of, and we see only three frames are shown to us, and in great, fluorescent yellow circling, there's 1, 2, 3, just in the photo there in that one flat section, 3 cameras right on top of the Pentagon. I mean, they're all on top of the Pentagon there. It only goes up like 4 stories or whatever. So where are they? I don't know if you knew this, but they confiscated 88 footages, or is it 68? Either 68 or 88. Either way, all they had to do was show us, they showed us 3. They gave us 3 videos of those 88 or however many there was. They took them from gas stations. They took them from hotels. They took them from anywhere they were pointing this way. The one just shows the Pentagon and then shows a bit of smoke rise. Okay. You can't really see anything there. The other one shows what they say is the sun being blotted out from Flight 77 coming in. They say, here's 77's shadow, as it were. So they gave us that, and some third one that I don't even remember what that was. So there's our, out of 88 that they took from all the other places, and who knows what, another 88 from the Pentagon that they just, keep on the DL because of national security. We can't have people knowing how many there are in the Pentagon. Well, there's at least that 3 on that one section of E-ring up top that was on Instagram in that meme saying, what about these cameras?
Now, the black boxes were blown up, right? So they could, on the planes, they couldn't find those, or, because they're pretty much fire. Right? Those.
From what they did find the one in the Pentagon, from what I had understood. The other ones, I don't think were found, from what I understand, in New York City. But I could also be wrong about that. I'm not 100% sure about that.
I remember ever hearing about them being found in New York City. I only remember about hearing about the one in Pennsylvania and then the Pentagon one, but the ones in New York City, I don't remember ever hearing about them being found.
But they
I don't think
that I can recall.
Did they say they never did they? And
no, I don't think they did.
Yeah, not in New York, I don't think they did. And I could even be wrong about the one in D.C., but I'm pretty sure they say they found the box in D.C.
Yeah, they say a lot of things.
Well, I mean, with the pictures in the FBI vault, etc., with the little yellow tag with the number, etc. Because that means you can go places with that. That's their story, and they're sticking to it. So it's like, okay, very good. Now I have something to go on. That way, when I come back and debunk it, they can't say, "Well, what we really meant." What? Nah, that thing's got its own number, its own. It's there. It's done. It's been inserted. You know what I mean? So it's good when they do that, when they sign on to a something and they say, oh, yeah, our heels are in the cement and we stick to our story, because it makes it a lot easier to poke holes, or not poke holes, but expose holes that are already there.
Now, I watched the thing
That's very important.
Did you guys watch the thing about George Bush where they didn't know where to take him, and it was like all kinds of messy stuff going on there? And I was like, are you kidding me? Really?
Yeah, like he was on Air Force One and he didn't know what was going on, and they weren't telling him everything.
And apparently that's because Dick Cheney was in D.C., basically running the show. I mean, think about how far
Dick Cheney ran that administration.
Exactly, and he was the Secretary, of Defense before that.
Dick Cheney was the real president back then.
Well, they didn't know what to do with George Bush. We had an emergency, and they were just flying him around. They were like, "Well, did we take him to?"
Like a Game Boy or something, I mean, or an ice. You know what I mean? The guy could barely tie his shoes. I mean, that's what I used to say. So, what do you think, George Bush did it? I said, oh, are you kidding me? Because I used to think that, all right, we at least let this happen. And I said, no, I don't think George. You really think George W. Bush, the young one, boy George, you really think he's dictating any sort of policy from the Oval Office? Are you kidding me?
Puppet.
That makes Dan Quayle look like a genius. And I mean that.
Now you're really stretching it. I have to put a stop to that. Dan Quayle, really, dude? Really? Come on. Now.
Are you a big Dan Quayle fan, Roger?
No, I am not going to say that Dan Quayle is smarter than anybody, dude, ever. That's just not going to happen. Sorry, that's just not going to happen.
I just wonder what you meant.
Yeah, I mean...
I love it.
Sorry.
They take Bush to the Marines base or something. Where do they end up taking him? To a gas station? I don't know. It was all over the place. It's like, where are we going to take him? He doesn't know where he's going. We don't know what to do with him. We don't know what we're doing. We're up there. There was no communication in the plane for a long time with the president. Yeah. Unreal. It was just unreal.
Well, it's because Dick Cheney was calling the shots.
Just 3 or 4 months before as well. That way there wouldn't be any communication between them for at least a little while.
Since you did so much research,
back after 9/11.
MC, I want to ask you something. There's an incident that happened with 9/11 that a lot of people don't really talk about, and I wondered if you did any research into this. Back when they were doing the digging and everything, I remember an incident that took place between the fire department and the police department when they were pulling up the vaults out from underneath the ground of the Trade Center, and they ordered that all of the fire or the rescue teams leave the site. And it caused an uproar, and the fire department literally went fist to fist with the police department over it.
I never heard that.
Yes, it happened right there.
I remember that one.
They actually went in with heavy equipment to pull the vaults up out of the ground and everything. And while they were doing it, everybody who was part of the rescue teams and doing the recovery and everything had to leave. And I remember that to this day. And for some reason...
So that would have been feds probably, right? Not city police, but federal officials.
Most likely.
Or no?
Well, I know that the police were on the scene as well. So, but
they always will be.
But it was the fire department that they were the ones that well, if you look at a lot of the people who got actually injured and actually died in that, there was more rescue teams that were actually injured and died because of the rescue efforts. You know what I mean? A lot of people
Yeah,
don't.
343 police and firefighters lost their lives that day.
You know.
Yeah.
And it got pretty dramatic in that part. And to this day, not too many people really talk about that. So I was wondering if you actually.
Yeah, I think you might have asked me. We might have talked about this before on somebody's show. But you're right. You're right. And again, I bring up Christopher Boland's name, who wrote a great book about 9/11. I think it's called 9/11: Solving the War. Anyhow, about 5 months in to because it was about 9 months that it took them to quote unquote clean up the pile.
Right.
Anyhow,
Almost a year.
yeah, it was almost a year. Yeah, and it was on fire until the 1st of January, and I can tell you that with my own eyes. But smoking, when the sun went down every night, still smoking until the 1st of January. But anyhow, that vault you're talking about. Okay, so there was one that was, and I don't know what building exactly it was from, but there was one that had gold and other valuables in it and whatnot. And that was come up on around the 4th or 5th month. And as they got closer and closer, Christopher Boland wrote in his book, he spoke to the one worker there, and they, first they removed the regular workers. Then they, removed most of the police and replaced them with feds. And it got to the point where the guy said, after the 5th day, if I would have walked down there, he said they would have shot me on sight. That's what he said or whatever. And what happened was this is going to sound nuts. This is something right out of that Bruce Willis movie or whatever. But there was gold being carted off the morning of 9/11, and some of those trucks, because they're not secret tunnels or anything like that. They're just underground tunnels for utility and so on. And I guess this is my best guess, they misjudged the height of the trucks, and just sometimes you do that, especially in a job like this, you'd be like, well, will the truck make it? I don't know, that's my guess. But they couldn't, they had to ditch the trucks with the gold and get the heck out of there. So there's that. Okay, the trucks, not the vault. Then there's a vault that they came up on. Here's the thing about the vault. The vault was from the Security and Exchange Commission's building. That was building 6, 11-story. I mean, pretty, 11-story, pretty doggone high. I mean, it's not quite 47 stories like building 7. That would have been the tallest building in 21 states in 2001. That was a behemoth, building 7. Most people don't know. It's just so huge. You look at it now next to One World Trade, and they look like they're twin towers. I mean, that's 1,776 feet tall, and 47 floor new building 7 looks like it's 3/4 the size. But anyway, and they got closer, whatever. They got to the thing. They opened it. It was empty when they got to that Security and Exchange Commission's vault. And there was Kenneth Lay, if you remember Kenneth Lay, Enron, WorldCom. There was all kinds of evidence from that in there. There was, again, gold. Of course, who knows, some kind of, jewels, all that stuff you can imagine, but certainly gold. And again, I hear there was Whitewater, HRC, Whitewater evidence, all kinds of evidence for these super crimes. Bernie Madoff, remember the #1 Ponzi scheme dude? There was all kinds of, and the thing was emptied out. So Christopher Boland writes in his book that had been emptied out, probably the night before, because it's Monday, so it is a weekday. So that's what I know about that. Yeah.
Wow,
pretty crazy.
Huh. Wow.
Bring up a lot of evidence of a lot of crimes with that event.
9/11 is. It's a crime and a crime and a crime and a crime, just like those Russian dolls. And anytime they do this state-sponsored false flag terrorism, there's always more than like 3 or 4 reasons. It's always like 9, 12, maybe 24. It's always so many multiple reasons when they do a JFK or a COF 19 or a 9/11 or a 7/7. That a little bit less of an extent, but still, yeah, 7/7, 2 bombing in London, etc.
Oh yeah, there's the list just goes on and on. All of those things are a distraction from multiple things.
And boy, have they ever needed distractions. I haven't seen them needing distractions from this Epstein situation. I don't think ever.
Yeah, that's a big cover up. I mean, it's like when you stick your foot in your mouth, you have to go through a lot of hoops to cover your tracks, make everything look good.
So I think that whole thing, because really, it's not that important now, really. I think it's just a distraction from all the rest of the stuff that's going on.
It wouldn't be that important if it wasn't for the state-sponsored aspect and if it wasn't for the blackmail aspect of the donor class. When you're controlling the donor class, that's better than controlling who's in there, because who's in there, they come and go every 2 to 4 years. But the donor class, they don't come and go every 4 or even 10 years. They're there and their kids are there.
Right.
Well, and
they're using that to control the shadow elite or the shadow government.
Right. I'm not
So
saying
we'll never totally
government.
there's so much.
Yeah.
Well, for me, what I'm getting at with the whole thing about it is, like, take Michael Savage, for example. Okay, now Michael Savage is one of the biggest supporters of Donald Trump. Okay, and Michael Savage is one of these people in the I consider the alt-right, the actual alt-right, which is alternative. You know what I mean? They're fringe, basically. And he's the one who supports things like the birther movement. He's also big on the Epstein stuff, things of that nature. And that's how Donald Trump got most of his support, was from those people. So when he got on television and he started saying that people who believe in this Epstein thing are a bunch of idiots, he basically put his foot in his mouth, because he literally called like 80% of his constituents idiots. Okay. So now
he's split right in the middle.
Right.
He even went as far as to say they weren't his supporters anymore if they believed it.
Yeah. And I don't think he really understands how much power people like Mike Savage has when it comes to that category of supporters. Okay. Like, he carries a lot of weight. And I think that's why he finally realized 2 days after he said that, and that's when all of a sudden he started backtracking. Now all of a sudden he's just going to push for those Epstein files to come out. Oh, we're going to do our best, guys. We love you.
Well, actually, but it's still a distraction to something. It is.
Oh, yeah, everything's a distraction to something else.
Yeah.
Well,
everything is.
I think if you look at the way politics is right now, everything is a distraction. Like,
right.
What isn't a distraction? I have really.
We got distractions from distractions.
For distractions.
From distractions.
Well, what was the lady that supposedly killed herself? Like, she was almost killed in a bus crash, which was a one vehicle crash, which is kind of odd. Almost killed, so it was like it was a hit that didn't work, and then she ends up supposedly committing suicide.
That was Virginia Roberts, wasn't it?
And
she was one of the Epstein victims.
She didn't commit suicide. I don't. She was ill. Let me tell you something interesting about that. When she was hit by that bus, you know what they wrote in the paper? they wrote that, okay, Virginia Giuffre hit by bus in the ER, is told you're lucky, you've sustained some injuries, but you're going to be okay. However, we took your blood, and you happen to be very, very ill with whatever, I don't know what,
Oh.
and you're going to die in 4 days.
What?
This is what it's. Yeah. I reported on this when I heard about that on my show, the D program on D Live.
Okay.
Yeah, they said you're going to die in 4. She didn't die in 4 days. But it was just so weird. So you're telling me that, wow, I just wouldn't have known if I was going to die in 4 days had I not been hit by this bus today. And then she dies about 30 days later.
But it was suicide, right? It's supposed to be suicide.
Well, supposedly.
Supposed to be.
Oh, was it? I don't believe she was supposed to be suicide. Was it? Wasn't she ill?
No,
Well-
she was. They said she
Did
committed
somebody
suicide.
Google it?
Yeah, they said that she had severe mental illnesses, and like she would,
Said-
Did they say she took her own life? Was
But
that the narrative?
they said she stepped in front of a bus. But
Well, yeah, no, that was a whole different thing. That was 3 or 4 weeks before she died. No, I don't believe she killed herself. I believe they said she was really ill and she died, just not in the 4 days that they said she would die from this
wow.
illness.
Yeah.
Herself. She was supposed to- they said it was-
Google Virginia Giuffre, just throw some words in there, 4 days to die, and see what comes up. I bet you that article comes up.
I was
Trip.
pretty sure they said it was
Yeah, I'll
suicide in there.
have to look that up.
I
It
can
was
do it
Yeah,
for
yeah.
you.
I wish somebody would Google it right now because
I
I'm
can-
so bad with the tech. I'll lose this screen, and I'm sharing our thing on D Live right there. But
I
yeah,
can
it'd
get
be
it.
nice if somebody would quickly Google it so we could crowdsource the truth real quick. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'd be
Okay.
very, very surprised if it came up that she was committed suicide because I don't even think that's the official narrative. But I could
Here it
be
is.
wrong.
Here's what it says. Her family announced her death in April 2025, stating that she died by suicide in Western Australia, where she'd been living. She was remembered by her family as a fierce warrior against sexual abuse, whose death was due to the heavy toll of abuse she endured. Yeah, that's what I thought I read.
All right,
Yeah.
very good. All right, so it's saying she committed suicide there.
Well,
Wow.
And stuff is saying it's not true, and certain members of the family, but that's what it was determined.
Right.
And
The official narrative.
Of course
That's
it
what
was-
we're trying to find out. Just like those FBI.
Yeah, we've always
They're sticking to it. That way we know where we can,
We've-
our research.
we've always got an official. They've always got an official narrative.
Yeah,
You know.
but he says that her family released a statement confirming her death by suicide, stating that the burden of the abuse she suffered just became unbearable. And but then there was some other people in her family. I know I read that they didn't buy it. They didn't buy it at
Wow.
all.
Yeah.
I think she told some other people in her family she wasn't suicidal in the event that
Yeah, that's what
something
I heard.
happened to her.
She actually
That's
wrote
right.
a letter, didn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My memory. Indeed.
Yeah.
Us?
Yeah, she said she was not suicidal because she was afraid something was going to happen to her.
Yep.
Right.
That was like McAfee who got the tattoo S-whacked. He put the $ and then whacked right on his arm to let people know, yo, if you find me, dead, I didn't kill myself. And sure enough, you find him in a Spanish prison cell dead.
Who was that?
Yeah.
Who'd you say that was?
McAfee. He was running away on his boat, trying to stay away from everybody, and he tried to fuel up in Spain, and they got him in Spain, and that was that. Hey, it's the same thing that they did to Epstein's buddy Jean-Luc Brunel. He just died in a French prison cell, killed himself, was able to somehow hang himself in a French prison cell. I hate to admit it, but I've been in my fair share of prison cells, and let me tell you, it is absolutely, positively, if they gave you a rope, impossible to hang yourself in a prison cell.
Yeah, and I think
There's
Epstein.
nothing to wrap the rope around, right?
Right? What are you going to hang it from the fifth
Right.
foot from your top bunk? I mean,
And Epstein
Yeah.
was supposed to be heavily guarded, but I think he's still alive. I swear I do. I really do. Because where
who
was I
knows?
mean, without this kind of, but I know that he didn't commit suicide either. I'm pretty sure not.
I think
And then they tried to release that stupid video. They tried to release that stupid video that had a minute missing from it, and then they tried to tell everybody that the video that's where the camera starts recording over itself again. They didn't even try to make it look good.
The odd
Here's
part
the thing about that minute.
Oh.
It doesn't matter if that minute's missing because the date is wrong. That thing is from the day
Wow.
before. If you look at the date at the bottom, it doesn't even
Really?
have the correct date.
Stupid? God Lord.
Yeah. So, and that's what they do. That's called selling the idea that unicorns are real by arresting two people for hunting them out of season. Let's all argue about this minute when literally all you have to do is look, and the date is from the day before. I mean, I can't spell it out any simpler. I just can't.
Well, that's
There's so many holes in that story too. It's just unreal.
but with Virginia, I think they tried to. It was a failed hit the first time with the bus or whatever, and then they said she killed herself. But I think they offed her somehow, so they made it look like suicide.
Probably intimidated her family into making the statement that she killed herself.
I just can't
Or
figure
at
that
least-
out. She'd already written a book. She'd already said Clinton was there and several other people. And she did some artwork and stuff. And that's been years ago. So I'm like, what threat is she now?
Well, they got Ghislaine Maxwell on standby to go out for work release, if you've heard about that. Not only the fact that they moved her from a really rough prison in Florida to a super cush club fed type place where she can take yoga. There's animal therapy. She can play with the dogs. I'm being dead serious. This is in Texas. Now, just quickly, she doesn't. This is how you know this came from the very top. Because, one, she has a 10-year sentence. That means she doesn't qualify for that placement. Two, she's a sex offender. That means she doesn't qualify for that placement. Yet she's there and about to go out on work release. So, Virginia Giuffre, quite frankly, just being alive wasn't good for business.
Well, it goes back to what you guys were talking about with Epstein's suicide. Let's look at her dad and the mysterious death with him. He ends up mysteriously falling over the side of his yacht, and guess who was the one who flew all those girls to Epstein Island? It was his daughter. You know, and like if you do research on Epstein, you'll find out that he was really into this scientific research that goes on into universities and stuff, and it had a lot to do with trying to make people submissive, and he was real heavily involved in all that stuff. As a matter of fact, this guy was a professor at ASU, and when you guys were talking about that girl committing suicide supposedly, all of this is related to Australia, right? Well, he went down to Australia and he ended up losing his entire career because he groped a woman's boobs, man, while he was freaking down there. And he got up on the stage and he's like, man, I'm a better man because I met Epstein. I'm a better man. You know what I mean? Just sitting there preaching it. And then guess what happens? Nothing happens to him. He gets off scot-free. You know, Epstein commits suicide in his jail cell, and he gropes a woman 5 years later and loses everything he ever had. You know what I mean? So that's
money.
Yeah.
Money talk. It's like Hollywood. That stuff's scarier than the paranormal with the real people like that.
But you know, I mean, everybody they don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear the fact that a lot of this crazy research has been going on. Maxwell, her dad was actually real deep into MI6 and the CIA and the Mossad.
He was one of the most famous Mossad agents they had.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
It was a huge.
Yeah. They gave him a funeral like they would have given John Gotti. Even though they probably most likely killed their own man, they still loved him.
Yeah. I believe he owned the National Enquirer too. I'm not quite sure, but I think wasn't it the National Enquirer he owned?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
He was a big news media magnate back when he was there, but he ended up getting in trouble because he was he was stealing money from his investors to keep his businesses afloat and everything. He got busted for it.
Yeah, a little bit of Ponzi scheming going on.
So he was a mover and
I've heard
shaker.
about that.
Well,
So I mean, but
the government was getting that license to fly choppers, that way they could go from Little St. James to Big St. James or St. Thomas Island,
so
that's where they actually landed the main island.
So for me, the distraction is actually the opposite. You know what I mean? There's a lot involved with Epstein. It's just they don't want to look at it because if they do that, a lot of people are going to get busted.
You're darn right. From both sides too,
Yeah.
Democrat and Republican.
Oh.
They both don't want.
Yeah.
So
Oh no, they're
This goes back to like Hollywood, there's all the people saying
Oh, yeah.
that's all
exactly.
crickets. Look at Diddy, who knows? He'll probably walk.
I bet you Trump
He already
pardons
did,
him.
basically, didn't he?
He
They slapped him on the wrist.
flattened on
He's
20
coming
years.
up September 5th, I think, for the sentencing.
Mhm.
he's coming up for sentencing in October for the charges he was found guilty on, like October 3rd, I believe.
Mhm.
And
There was 5 charges, and the hardcore charges they found him not guilty of. They're probably just going to give him time served. They probably won't do a day. He's already done all that.
well, I can't believe that you do all
Yeah, probably.
coming in and doing all these stuff and raiding all his homes, and they don't have nothing on him. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's BS. It's BS.
Another thing is like with Jay-Z, Jay-Z is involved, but it's like Jay-Z owns everything. So if you go in and look him up on the AI, it says that he's doing great. But if you do a little more digging, he's got all kinds of business problems and all kinds of problems with money. But
I know he's a big-time Freemason. I know that much about Jay-Z. He's very much into Freemasonry, Jay-Z. I mean, he's got no...
Oh yeah, he's in deep.
Yeah, he's like proud of it.
He's like 33rd degree.
Probably.
Or damn near.
well, how's he
32nd or 33rd, I would guess. Yeah.
how's he being so Teflon? He was at these parties. He was with him. They were friends, and he acts like all of a sudden they're not friends. Come on, we all know better.
Well, look at when you mention Hollywood though. Remember when we had that conversation about Ellen DeGeneres? Remember her ex ended up going crazy, driving down the road and slamming into everything left and right. She ended up dying from it.
Wait a minute. Was that Michael Hastings?
No, that was that blonde-headed chick. She was a lesbian, remember?
Oh, I was going to say, because I'm
Ellen
thinking maybe this
DeGeneres.
is when she was with guys or something. All right,
No.
never mind.
The guy that was on her show, he died too. He was real sweet guy.
Twitch.
Well, not Twitch. Twitch did too. That's weird. There's Twitch died, but then there was Leslie. I forget his name. He was a little guy that played the elf on her show. He died in a one-car accident, just like her.
God. Yeah, I can't do that either. That's sad. Whenever you start talking about dead elves, I mean,
During COVID, he had a big show where everybody. I didn't watch him, but he had a show where he'd get on and everybody loved him. But he was on he was on a big sitcom a long time ago with Grace. Grace, I think. Yeah, he was a little guy. But he died in a one-car accident after her girlfriend, the same weird kind of thing. He said he had a heart attack, crashed into a building.
same stuff, same motive. Like Maxwell falls off the yacht mysteriously. Epstein gets hung in a jail cell.
It's always coincidental.
What?
Yeah,
That's all coincidence.
well,
So she's gone now. She's retired, and Ellen is, and went to Europe or something, didn't she?
Ellen's set up on the. She's set up and good to go for the rest of her life. She sold herself to the devil, man. She signed the contract. It's over.
She sold herself to Satan,
Well,
the god of the world.
do, but I'm sure Jay-Z has.
Do you know how much money these people funneled into her shows so that she could do those giveaways?
And she's owned by
Oh, billions.
MGM Grand.
Right. Yes, exactly. You know exactly where I'm going with that.
Same people that did the 91 Root Fest, etc. I don't know if they did it, but was involved with it, etc.
Like she
That guy Jose Campos goes down to Mexico, comes back a week later, 40 pounds lighter, wearing glasses, and no longer will he go on all the news programs he said he would. Now he will only go on Ellen DeGeneres, and that's it. And it just so happens that she was owned by the MGM Grand. I mean, again, more coincidences, right?
they were handing out
Yes,
they were handing out millions of dollars in prizes every week, okay, on her show. All those prizes she was handing out, that money had to come from somewhere.
Right.
You know. So
Well, we were going to talk some ghosts, but there's
Same.
people scarier.
well,
Same with Oprah. That was
yeah. Well, yeah.
she was another one.
Oprah, I think if she would have ran for president, she would have won. Being honest with you, I really
Sadly,
not saying that I approve of it or not, but like she has way more power than a lot of people think she does.
That's my
does.
theory. She has too much power. She wouldn't do good as a president with having 20 handlers, 10 of which she never even met before. I don't think she would anyway.
Yeah.
no.
She might have
don't
gotten
know.
up there on the podium and said some stuff that she wasn't supposed to say. Cause
You're doggone right. Plus, remember all the exposure work she did in the 80s that's kind of sort of got her famous. All the satanic panic and all that stuff. Dr. Michael Aquino and Richard Ramirez and, all that stuff.
Mhm.
There's one thing I agree with Oprah on, though, is that Michael Jackson was a pedophile, and I do too. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
To this day, I just don't know.
yeah, I mean,
Honestly,
I just
50-50.
think that's my personal opinion. A lot of people don't.
Maybe even
I-
60-40, he didn't do it. But that's just me. I don't know.
But I mean, so she's supposed to be a survivor of that kind of abuse, and there's a couple guys that came forward after he passed away, and she had them on her show, and she believes it. So I mean, I do think that's true, but anyway, back to scary stuff. We were talking about with 9/11. Do you know how many people just 1 minute or something or being late to work saved their lives though? Because my boyfriend was telling me about a man that he knew because he grew up in Harlem. That was, I think he went back to his house to get his key or something. He forgot something, and so he wasn't in the building, or he would have been. There's all those stories like you'll hear about like that, or if somebody's one man was going to call in sick. It was his very last day to work there, and his wife said, he said, I'm going to go in anyway. And she's like, no, you only have one more day. Just call in sick. And he didn't. And he passed away. He died. So it's just weird how one little decision you make can change everything. You know?
Changes the whole trajectory.
What? What'd you say, Elsa?
Changes the whole trajectory of
Just
your
one-
life and shit tons of other lives.
And don't you wonder, like, some morning when you're like, we're trying to get to work and you're pissed off and because you had to run back in and get a key, or your dog did something, you had to boom back in there. If it didn't make it so that you didn't have a tragedy or something bad didn't happen, it's weird how one little 5 minutes a minute can make a difference. So that was what some of the stories are really freaky like that.
What was that? What was that one Angel and the Rebel story? How'd that story go? Is that the last? Was that the story of the last survivor they recovered that was alive from the Rebel of the Twin Towers?
I sent that to you, but I don't know if I read the whole thing. Did you read it? I think they found.
I read it. I read it. It was good, but
she lived for 24 hours. She was the only survivor they found in the rubble. But I don't know all the details.
Well, have you heard about the story of Stairwell B? There was 13 people. I'm pretty sure it was 13 people who were huddled under what ended up being part of quote unquote Stairwell B. And I don't know if this was in the North or the South Tower, but they were under there. They, a couple of them were badly injured, a couple of them not so much. The ones that weren't so injured made as much noise as they possibly could. And wouldn't you know, the light started showing through. And it was people, digging, looking for, and they said, we're here. So they got the hole large enough to where they could pull the ones that weren't that injured out. Then the ones that had broken bones and such, they got them out afterwards. But they wrote a whole book about it, I'm pretty sure. It's called Stairwell B.
I think
it was on History Channel. It was on History Channel.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that. And the stairwell
Yeah.
saved them from being crushed.
Yeah.
So they were just like in a pocket.
Area.
They shoot.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I was looking at the one that I sent Austin about the angel. She was the only woman they found in the rubble alive. She'd been there 24 hours, and they said, she had to have an angel or something with her because there's no way she should have lived in, where she was at. But yeah, there's a lot of stories there. And there's also, they say they keep seeing a woman that's like a nurse or something at the site. It's a ghost. But she seems to be like an old nurse, is what somebody was saying. They thought she was like, because when they were doing like, fresh kill and doing and cleaning up stuff, they had like volunteers bringing them sandwiches and things like that. So this one guy said, I thought she was like one of the ladies that was doing that. But he said, then I realized she was just like dressed in an old nurse outfit, and he said she disappeared. So
that what you mentioned in Fresh Kills again, that just reminded me of another thing they did. They took a bunch of the steel from the Twin Towers and stuff, and I think the Navy built a destroyer or something from it. Remember that? There was like a destroyer. There was a ship that they built from the steel they took from some of that rubble, and it was, I think the ship was reported to have been haunted by some of the ghosts of the 9/11 victims.
Wow.
Why would you do something like that?
It's
people weren't thinking really all that straight during that time period, though. You got to remember that. Like they weren't. There was a lot of patriotism. There was a lot of anger. There was a lot of this. There was a lot of that. People. I mean, I remember like it was just so insane. The only thing I remember that was actually the most rational thing I heard during that time period was when this one guy in Kansas City got on the radio and he said, the truth of the matter is freaking if when it comes to 9/11, the war is already won. The moment that happened, the world had changed. And from that day on until now, this world has never been the same whatsoever.
Absolutely.
It has changed 100%.
It hasn't been.
It's different than any other event that's ever happened, even JFK. I was comparing that with somebody that JFK was more of a United States affecting thing, and even still not as much as 9/11. But 3 days of having all airplanes grounded and 4 days of having the markets closed, and then another 2 days, Saturday and Sunday. Come that Monday, that was it. Less than a week, a working week even. And the entire world, not the United States, but the entire world was different to the 5X as the United States was post JFK.
Yeah.
And or anything since then.
I remember how it was before then and how it's been since, and it's never been the same.
Right, and I wouldn't even say that Pearl Harbor comes close. Everybody compares it, but I don't agree with that one bit. I think this is way, way worse than what Pearl Harbor even was. to be honest.
Yeah, you can't even compare the two.
You know.
No.
Because Pearl Harbor was military deaths. This was civilian.
Yeah.
This was civilian deaths. I think that's an aspect of it that makes it a lot worse.
One of the biggest aspects I always think of that makes it worse is at least with Pearl Harbor, there was an enemy to be enticed. Here, we lied and said there was an enemy to be enticed, but did it?
Oh yeah, that's another
About
horrible aspect.
I mean, my word, that's what I couldn't even wrap my head around as a 21-year-old or even 25-year-old or whatever. When I was 37, I don't know, maybe I was a little more, ready to take that type of information in. But the cognitive dissonance it was impossible. It was just impossible.
Oh yeah, it's incredible how warped the whole thing was. I mean, it's and I think collectively we're still in shock from it.
But
I know why.
we bounced back from that a lot better than we did it from COVID. It seems like COVID's put some kind of, it's just done something to people. I don't know. Like,
Left a cloud hanging over everything.
I don't
Sure,
know.
a lot of businesses.
And then you go back
Yeah.
on.
That's an aspect of it.
Things haven't snapped back to normal afterwards, even though it seems like they really haven't. I don't feel like, in a lot of people, they say their sense of time is different. I don't know what it is.
Time is going by quicker since then. That's one thing I've been hearing from a lot of people all over the internet is that time has really sped up since 2020. I heard something to the effect of we lost like a minute from the hour, which adds up to like we lost like 160 hours per year or something.
Oh no.
I don't know, that's an aspect of it.
I've just
I've
blamed it
heard,
on
but
old age.
The more it speeds up.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
that's what I thought. I thought
It is.
I'm 52 years old. You know, like for a 20-year-old, their 1 year, 2 years go by real nice and slow. For me, it's just a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean that's what I always.
Oh
thought
yeah,
about.
for me.
I found this angel in the rubble. Here she is. What's her name? Janelle Guzman McMillan. Guzman. He was trapped for 20 in the 9/11 rubble. The last person rescued from 9/11 World Trade Center. But while trapped, she said a rescuer named Paul reached for her, and she believes he was a guardian angel. She heard a voice, felt a hand reach for her, and Paul told her to hang on, inspiring her to hope for a miracle. After her rescue, she never found out who Paul was. It wasn't any of the rescue workers. She documented her harrowing experience and miraculous salvation in the book Angel in the Rubble. Yeah, so that's one of the ones.
Look up that. Try to look up that battleship that I heard about them building, and see if you find anything on that. It could be like a Mandela effect thing with me.
What is it? The battleship?
Try to look up
a destroyer
battleship
or something.
Yeah, I think it was a destroyer. Try to look up Navy ship built from.
Yeah, there you go. Navy ship built from WTC steel.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, did you actually find something on it?
Really?
Oh.
Did he? I haven't found it yet. I was just wondering.
Oh.
Tantalizing.
I was wondering if you Googled it.
Yeah. Okay. Oh wait. Oh my goodness. 3 U.S. Navy warships were constructed using steel salvaged from the wreckage of September 11th terrorist attack.
I thought only one was built.
Well, these are amphibious transport dock ships, not battleships, and they are named to honor the victims of the attack. U.S. New York is named for the victims of the attack on the World Trade Center. Let me see. USS Arlington is named for the victims who died in the Pentagon, of course, in Arlington County, Virginia. USS Somerset is named for the the passengers of the United States Flight 93. And there's their U.S. New York 21. What's that one? I thought they said. Did they say 4? Yeah. So there was another one too.
Like maybe they built like a ship for each plane that crashed, and they named them after each of the locations.
U.S.
That's a good guess.
New York too was one. So, ew, I don't know. I didn't know.
That's still crazy that they. That's still
That's unsettling.
still crazy they did that.
One was
Yeah.
bad enough. Now they have 3 or 4 of them they did it with. So
Yeah, and then if you consider the government did it.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so guys,
Let's
I've got
Sorry, MC Dirty Work. It's even worse than I thought.
I've
It
got
always is.
I've got to ask you guys if we can cut this short, because here in about another 15 minutes I have to simulcast another show. So.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we covered everything.
Yeah.
Right.
This has actually
some.
been an amazing show. I mean,
Yeah.
It really has. I'm
This
sad.
has been one of the best we've ever done.
I
Yeah,
sat here quiet because you guys are just champions tonight.
Hey, but I can't see on one of these ships, but I guess, ew. Well, they're not really. They're transport dock ships. What do they do? You're not really. It's not like you're on a Carnival cruise.
They probably transport like cargo and marines and stuff for amphibious landings and stuff like that. Is what I would assume.
Now that's better than a
Okay.
battleship.
Steam transport.
That or garbage.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a good idea, because it has a, I don't know. Objects
No, I don't.
energy in them.
And I read something about one of those ships supposedly being haunted by the ghosts of 9/11 victims. I'm gonna have to see if I can dig that up again.
This is something I learned, by the way. Thank you. I haven't heard all these stories about these hauntings in context with 9/11, though, of course, you would imagine there would be. So interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, that's a cool aspect of it too.
Yeah, we'll have to get on your page and maybe send some, or I can get in touch with some of those. And
that reminds me, on Discord, MC, I sent you an invite to the Wonderful World of Weirdness a while back. If it's expired, let me know, and I can add you in on it again. That way you can talk directly to us right there on the thing.
Yeah.
And
so how can we reach you with those stories or whatever?
You can reach me at Telegram, Discord. I do a show called The D Program Friday, Saturday, and Sunday mornings on D Live exclusively, though we'll be simulcasting to Rumble and other places soon. 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard. You can find me at MC_Dirty Work at Instagram, Twitter, Jason Quigley, other people know me as, Facebook or whatever. But those are the best places to find me, pretty much. Roger always really trying to get a hold of me.
Yeah, I love hanging out
Roger,
with
send
MC.
us a link to his Discord. We can reach him on there.
That's
and I can look up Instagram too, probably. Yeah.
That's
Okay.
why.
Okay.
On Instagram, NC Dirty Work. Yeah, Jason Quigley.
Okay.
I don't check the Discord. I get better with it. I got to check it more and also just kind of learn it better. I do better with the Telegram, but I'm learning Discord.
Okay.
With Discord, just remember this: don't overcomplicate it. Just push buttons. That's it, and you'll get better at it if you just push buttons.
Yeah.
Don't try to overthink it.
I just
MC Dirty Work. You'll have to come on to our show again here in the future.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll have to start having you guys on the D program, and that goes for the folks on Vixen's Vault and whoever. Yeah.
When's the D program on again?
Mornings, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern. And we usually go later than 2 p.m. but always from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday mornings EST.
Okay.
Okay, I'll try. That's my time, so I'll try to get on to one of those as soon as I can.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yep,
this has
it's,
been great.
MC_dirty_work at DLive.
I got you on
Okay.
Instagram. I can share that with Austin, at least the Instagram. Yeah, I already got you on there. I followed you, so okay.
All righty.
All right.
I guess we'll wrap it up tonight. This has been great. Thank you for all the information you've given us, because we didn't. I mean, it's really been enlightening to learn about some of this stuff. So
Both learned a lot from each other.
thank you.
Thank you so much.